Tomorrow we will mark another year since a day that is forever etched into our collective memory. Before we look at that day, I want you to picture something with me. Imagine a morning in New York City. The air is crisp, the sky a brilliant, cloudless blue. It's early September, the city is just waking up, a symphony of yellow cabs, rumbling subways, and the quiet hum of millions of lives beginning their day. And there, standing tall against that perfect blue canvas, were the Twin Towers. They were more than just buildings, they were symbols of ambition, of human ingenuity, and of a city that never, ever sleeps. They were a landmark you could see from miles away, a steady presence on the horizon. Those towers represented so much to so many. For the people who worked inside them, they were a daily destination, a place of community and purpose. For tourists, they were a breathtaking sight, a pinnacle to ascend for a view that seemed to stretch on forever. For New Yorkers, they were a constant, a familiar part of the city's iconic silhouette, like the Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building. They were woven into the fabric of daily life, a backdrop for countless ordinary moments, a morning commute, a lunch break in the plaza, a glance up at the sky. They stood as twin pillars of strength and commerce, a testament to the city's relentless forward momentum and its place at the center of the world. On the morning of September 11, 2001, that ordinary day began just like any other. The sun rose, casting its golden light over the 5 boroughs. People were heading to work, to school, dropping their children off, grabbing coffee. The future felt certain, and the day held the simple promise of routine. No one could have known that in a few short hours, the world would feel irrevocably different. No one could have imagined that those towers, those symbols of permanence, would become the center of a story that would test the very limits of human endurance, and in doing so, reveal the profound depths of human courage. This is a story about what happened when the unthinkable occurred. But it is not a story about destruction. Instead, it is a story about what rises from the ashes. It is about the quiet, unwavering strength of the human spirit. It is about the first responders who ran toward danger without a moment's hesitation, about the strangers who became family in a matter of minutes, and about the communities that came together to heal and to rebuild. Tonight, we will remember the events of that day, not by dwelling on the darkness, but by shining a light on the incredible stories of courage, resilience, and hope that emerged and continue to inspire us all. When the first plane struck the North Tower at 8:46 a.m., a wave of disbelief and confusion washed over the city. But for the men and women of the Fire Department of New York, there was no time for questions. The moment the alarm sounded, they did what they were trained to do. They answered the call. From firehouses all across the city, engines roared to life, and firefighters donned their heavy gear, their faces set with determination. They raced toward the unfolding crisis, into the heart of a situation that no one could yet comprehend. They were heading into a fire unlike any they had ever faced, 100 stories in the sky. Among them was Captain Patrick "Patty" Brown of Ladder Company 3, a decorated veteran known for his calm demeanor and his fierce dedication to his crew. He and his men were among the first to arrive at the North Tower. They knew the risks, they saw the scale of the damage, yet they did not falter. They entered the lobby and began the arduous climb up the stairs, burdened by nearly 100 pounds of gear. Their mission was simple and selfless, to save as many lives as they possibly could. They were moving against a tide of people desperately trying to escape, offering words of encouragement as they ascended into the smoke. The story of Ladder 3 is just one of hundreds from that day. Firefighters from every borough converged on the World Trade Center, creating a powerful force of bravery. They established command posts, directed evacuations, and carried the injured to safety. They worked tirelessly, climbing flight after flight, their radios crackling with strained voices as they coordinated their efforts in an increasingly chaotic environment. Each firefighter who entered those towers made a conscious choice to put the lives of strangers before their own. They were driven by a sacred oath and an unbreakable bond with their fellow firefighters and the city they swore to protect. Their actions on September 11th represent an incredible lesson in selflessness. In the face of overwhelming fear, they demonstrated what it means to run toward the problem, not away from it. Of the 2,977 victims who lost their lives on that day, 343 were FDNY firefighters. Their sacrifice is a solemn reminder of the price of courage, but their legacy is not one of loss alone, it is one of profound inspiration. They showed the world that in the darkest of moments, the instinct to help, to serve, and to save others can shine brighter than any fire. Their bravery became a beacon of hope for a grieving nation. While first responders were rushing in, thousands of people were inside the towers, their ordinary workdays shattered in an instant. Their stories are not just about survival, they are about resilience, quick thinking, and the profound human connection that can form in a moment of crisis. Consider the story of Ron DeFrancesco, the last known survivor to escape the South Tower before its collapse. He was a financial professional working on the 84th floor when the second plane hit his building just floors below him. The impact was violent and disorienting, plunging his office into a state of chaos and smoke. Initially, he and a group of colleagues tried to head up toward the roof, hoping for a rooftop rescue, a scenario many had seen in movies. But the doors were locked. With the air growing thick and toxic, panic began to set in. Yet, amidst the fear, a primal instinct to live took over. Ron made the difficult decision to turn around and head down. He began a harrowing descent through darkened, smoke-filled stairwells, a journey that would test every ounce of his physical and mental strength. He was separated from his group and found himself alone, navigating a treacherous path downward through the damaged building. As he made his way down, Ron was guided by instinct and an unyielding will to get back to his family. He has spoken of a feeling, a voice, or a presence that urged him to keep moving, to not give up, even when exhaustion and the suffocating smoke threatened to overcome him. He passed firefighters heading up, their determined faces a stark contrast to the fear he felt. Their courage gave him a surge of strength to continue. He finally emerged from the tower and was running away when he heard the terrifying rumble of its collapse. He was thrown by the force of the debris cloud, but was found and helped to safety by strangers. Ron DeFrancesco's story is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human will. It teaches us that even when we feel completely alone and surrounded by darkness, there can be an inner strength that guides us toward the light. It is a reminder that the drive to survive, to reconnect with loved ones, is one of the most powerful forces on Earth. His survival was nothing short of a miracle, but it was also a product of his own refusal to surrender to despair. His journey out of the tower is a profound lesson in listening to that inner voice that tells us to keep going, one step at a time, no matter how difficult the path ahead. In the chaos of the North Tower's evacuation, one story stands out as a remarkable example of grace under pressure. It is the story of Josephine Harris, a bookkeeper who worked on the 73rd floor. When the order to evacuate came, Josephine, who suffered from a leg injury, began the long journey down the stairs with her colleagues. Her pace was slow, and as the flights of stairs wore on, she became increasingly exhausted. By the time she reached the 20th floor, she felt she could go no further. She collapsed, telling her coworkers to go on without her, to save themselves. It was in that moment of despair that members of FDNY Engine Company 6, led by Captain J. Jonas, found her. They were on their way down after being ordered to evacuate the tower themselves. They could have easily passed her, focused on their own survival as the building grew more unstable. Instead, they stopped. They saw a fellow human being in need and refused to leave her behind. The firefighters, already exhausted from their own climb and the intense heat, made a pact. They would carry Josephine down with them, no matter what it took. It was a decision that would ultimately save all of their lives. Carrying Josephine slowed their descent dramatically. The journey down those final 20 flights was grueling and slow. Other firefighters and evacuees rushed past them. But the men of Engine 6 remained with her, taking turns supporting her, encouraging her, and assuring her that they would get out together. As they finally reached the fourth floor, they heard an earth-shattering roar. The North Tower was collapsing around them. The force of the collapse was immense, and the stairwell B, crumbled around them. Miraculously, the small section they were in held, creating a pocket of survival amidst the rubble. They were trapped for hours, but they were alive, huddled together in the darkness. Josephine Harris, the woman they had stopped to save, had inadvertently saved them. Had they not been slowed by their selfless act of carrying her, they would have been in the lobby when the tower fell. Josephine became known as the Angel of Stairwell B, a symbol of how an act of kindness can have unforeseen and miraculous consequences. Their shared story teaches us a profound lesson. Compassion is never a weakness. In helping others, we often find our own salvation, and a single act of grace can ripple outward in ways we can never predict. As the tragedy unfolded in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania, the skies over the United States were ordered clear for the first time in history. All civilian air traffic was grounded. This unprecedented decision had a ripple effect across the globe, as hundreds of international flights heading to the United States were suddenly forced to divert. 38 of those planes, carrying nearly 7,000 passengers and crew from all corners of the world, were instructed to land in the small, remote town of Gander, in Newfoundland, Canada. The town's population was about to nearly double in just a matter of hours. The people of Gander and the surrounding communities did not hesitate. As plane after plane landed at their international airport, a relic of a bygone era of aviation, the townspeople sprang into action. They saw thousands of stranded strangers, confused, scared, and completely cut off from their families and the news of what was happening. The response was not one of panic or suspicion, but of overwhelming generosity and compassion. Town officials, school principals, and local volunteers worked around the clock to turn schools, community halls, and churches into makeshift shelters for their unexpected guests. For 5 days, the plain people, as they came to be known, were welcomed into the community not as outsiders, but as family. Residents opened their homes, offering warm beds, hot showers, and home-cooked meals. They donated clothing, toiletries, and toys for the children. Pharmacists filled prescriptions free of charge, and telephone company workers set up banks of phones so the passengers could call their loved ones around the world. The language barriers and cultural differences just melted away in the face of simple human kindness. Friendships were forged over shared meals and quiet conversations, creating lifelong bonds between hosts and guests. The story of Gander is a powerful reminder that even in the midst of a global crisis, our capacity for kindness and hospitality can bridge any divide. It shows that community is not defined by geography but by a shared sense of humanity. The people of Gander didn't have a plan for a crisis like this. They simply acted from the heart. Their lesson is one of open arms and open hearts. In a world that felt fractured and frightening, this small town on the edge of the continent showed everyone that the best response to fear is generosity, and the most powerful antidote to hate is love. In the hours and days that followed the attacks, a profound sense of unity and purpose swept across New York City and the entire nation. The immediate area around the World Trade Center, soon to be known as Ground Zero, became a focal point for an unprecedented volunteer effort. People from all walks of life felt an overwhelming urge to do something to contribute in any way they could. A spontaneous and massive wave of helpers descended upon Lower Manhattan, offering their skills, their time, and their compassion. It was a testament to the city's unshakable spirit. This army of volunteers included construction workers, iron workers, engineers, and demolition experts who arrived with their own hard hats and tools, ready to join the perilous search and recovery effort on the pile. They worked side by side with official rescue teams, their expertise proving invaluable in navigating the dangerous and unstable wreckage. Alongside them were medical professionals, doctors, nurses, and paramedics, who set up makeshift triage centers on sidewalks. tending to the injured and providing care to the exhausted rescue workers around the clock. Their presence was a constant source of support and relief. The support extended far beyond the immediate site. Kitchens were set up in nearby restaurants and community centers, with chefs and volunteers working tirelessly to prepare and serve tens of thousands of hot meals to first responders and recovery workers. People lined the West Side Highway, which had become the main route to and from Ground Zero, holding up signs of thanks and cheering on the rescue crews as they passed. They handed out bottles of water, clean socks, and sandwiches, small gestures of gratitude that provided immense moral support to those working in the most difficult conditions imaginable. This incredible outpouring of support teaches us that in the face of tragedy, the impulse to help is a powerful, unifying force. It shows that every single person has something to offer, whether it's a specialized skill, a hot meal, or simply a word of encouragement. The sea of helpers at Ground Zero demonstrated that a community's true strength is measured by its willingness to come together and support one another in a time of need. It was a moment when titles, backgrounds, and differences faded away, replaced by a shared purpose to heal, to help, and to rebuild together. In the wake of September 11th, thousands of families were thrust into a world of unimaginable grief and uncertainty. Their loved ones had gone to work, boarded a plane, or responded to a call, and had not come home. The days that followed were filled with desperate hope, as families posted photos of the missing on walls and fences near Ground Zero, creating heartbreakingly personal memorials. Yet, out of this profound sorrow, stories of incredible strength, grace, and a determination to create a positive legacy began to emerge. These families refused to let their loss be defined by hatred. Many of these families channeled their grief into action, creating foundations and charities in honor of those they lost. They sought to build a better world, one that reflected the values and passions of their loved ones. The Wells Remy Crowther Charitable Trust, for example, was founded by the parents of Wells Crowther, the young man known as the man in the red bandana, who saved at least a dozen lives before the South Tower collapsed. The foundation supports young people through educational programs, embodying the spirit of leadership and service that Wells demonstrated in his final moments. Other families focused on promoting cross-cultural understanding and peace. They traveled the world, sharing their stories and advocating for dialogue and tolerance as an alternative to conflict. They understood that responding to hate with more hate would only perpetuate the cycle of violence. Instead, they chose the more difficult but ultimately more powerful path of forgiveness and education. They became some of the most compelling voices for peace, their personal tragedies giving them a unique moral authority to speak out against division and advocate for a more connected and compassionate global community. The resilience of the 9/11 families offers one of the most enduring lessons of all, that love is stronger than hate. They have shown us that it is possible to endure the deepest pain and still choose a path of hope and constructive action. Their efforts to honor their loved ones through service, charity, and advocacy have created ripples of good that continue to spread across the world. They teach us that memory can be a powerful force for positive change, and that the most meaningful way to honor the lost is to build a future worthy of their spirit. Their strength is a testament to the enduring power of the human heart to find light in the darkest of times. As the recovery effort at Ground Zero concluded and the dust settled, a new monumental task began. How to remember. How could a nation, and the world, properly honor the lives lost, while also celebrating the resilience shown on that day? The answer came in the form of the National September 11 Memorial and Museum. The design, titled Reflecting Absence, was chosen from thousands of submissions. It centered on two enormous reflecting pools, set within the exact footprints of the Twin Towers. Water cascades down their sides, disappearing into a central void, symbolizing a loss that can never be fully filled. The creation of the memorial was a massive undertaking, filled with emotion and a deep sense of responsibility to the victims and their families. Every detail was carefully considered. The names of every single person who died in the 2001 and 1993 attacks are inscribed in bronze parapets surrounding the pools. But the names are not listed alphabetically. Instead, they are arranged through a system of meaningful adjacencies, reflecting where people were and who they were with when they died. This arrangement honors the relationships and connections, colleagues, family members, and the crew and passengers of each flight that were broken that day. Adjacent to the pools is the survivor tree, a calorie pear tree that was discovered in the rubble of Ground Zero in October 2001. It was severely burned and damaged, with snapped roots and broken branches. The tree was rescued from the site and nursed back to health in a city park. In 2010, it was returned to the Memorial Plaza, a living symbol of survival and rebirth. Each spring it blossoms with white flowers, a powerful and living testament to the nation's resilience. It stands as a quiet, powerful reminder that life can persevere and flourish even after devastating trauma. The Memorial Plaza is not a place of sadness but one of peaceful contemplation and remembrance. It teaches us that memory is an active, living thing. By creating a physical space for reflection, we ensure that the stories of that day are not forgotten. The memorial provides a place for survivors to gather, for families to grieve, and for future generations to learn about the events of 9/11 and, more importantly, about the unity and compassion that followed. It stands as a solemn promise that we will never forget the lives lost, and that we will always remember the spirit of hope that helped a city and a nation to rebuild and rise again. As we stand here today, on the eve of another anniversary, the New York skyline looks different than it did all those years ago. The majestic One World Trade Center now reaches for the sky, a symbol of defiance, renewal, and forward progress. It does not replace what was lost, but it stands as a testament to our collective resolve to build, to dream, and to look toward the future. The events of September 11, 2001, changed our world, but they did not break our spirit. Instead, they revealed a depth of strength and compassion that continues to resonate to this day. The stories we have reflected on tonight, of firefighters climbing into the unknown, of a survivor guided by an inner voice, of strangers becoming saviors in a darkened stairwell, and of a small town opening its heart to the world, are not just stories from the past. They are living lessons for our present and our future. They remind us that in moments of crisis, our first instinct is often to help. They show us that courage is not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it. They prove that kindness is a force more powerful than any act of destruction. The enduring message of 9/11 is not about the fall of towers but about the rise of everyday heroes. It is about the quiet resilience that resides within all of us. The call to never forget is more than a slogan. It is a promise. It is a promise to remember the innocent lives that were taken from us far too soon. It is a promise to honor the bravery of all who responded to the call for help. And it is a promise to carry forward the spirit of unity and service that shone so brightly in the aftermath of the darkness. So, how do we keep that promise? We keep it by living with a little more courage, a little more kindness, and a little more compassion each day. We keep it by looking out for our neighbors, by helping a stranger, and by choosing understanding over division. The most powerful way to honor the legacy of September 11th is to be inspired by its lessons and to build a world that reflects the very best of our shared humanity. That is our call to action. That is how we ensure that light will always, always triumph over darkness. Never forget September 11th.